use our phones and just plug our earbuds in and go to YouTube or many other free streaming sites and listen to our choice. But it wasn't always that easy.
There was a time when you didn't have your phone, when you couldn't just plug up any song that you wanted to. So join us today as Junior Appalachian Musicians presents A Visit to the Magical World of the Phonograph. If we go back to the late 1800s, if you wanted music, you had to listen to it live. So a fellow named Thomas Edison sat down and took to work on this, and in 1877 he invented a machine, and they recorded into it, and he recited "Mary Had a Little Lamb." And to his shock, it played back to him. He didn't think it would work, but it did. So all of a sudden, he had this marvelous new product to try to put on the market. Now, here's one of the later ones. By 1878, you had the Edison talking machine coming out, and it came in a little box like this, and you open it up. Here's your machine. Now, this is what's called a clockwork mechanism. There's a bunch of gears down in here, and there's a big spring that's like on a big wind-up clock. So when you wind it, it creates tension, so then you turn it on and it spins. This one unfortunately doesn't work, but you also had a speaker with it. Now, that's a lot different than our new speakers, isn't it? These were fascinating machines in their day. I mean, they really were unbelievable. And Edison saw all kinds of ways to use this machine so you could record on it or play it. So they thought about family histories, recording somebody's voice. They thought about dictation to do dictation for letters and stuff in the business, plus to play music or to record music. All that sound familiar? It happened, 100 years later. But these machines had some limitations. Now, they played a record that looked like this. Now, that's an Edison record, and it's got Thomas A. Edison's picture on it. And the record is not like what we looked at records later. It's a cylinder. Now, this is one of the drawbacks. This cylinder would play music for 2 minutes. So most of the songs at that time, especially the old mountain ballads, could go on for 20 minutes. So you had to edit and limit it in what you were going to do. By 1910, the machines had become more refined, not so much in the sound or the playing or the motor, but their cabinets became much better. This was a tabletop model from 1910. The cover raises up like that, and got a few changes in the works here, so we're going to actually play this. We're going to wind this up. Same way you did that one. This has to screw in place. And you want to be wound good because it won't play if you don't. Here we go. And we're going to play Turkey in the Straw. Now, this is a blue record. Some of them were brown, some of them were black. They were all different colors. This just simply press it on like that. And you're ready. By 1910, you could buy one of these for your house. Now they were fancier, people liked them better, and they became very fashionable, you know, to have this sitting in your living room. Now these were pretty expensive. They could be up to $200 or $300 for a nice cabinet model like this. Now the other big improvement was with the round record, the records would now play for 4 minutes. Instead of 2, you had 4 minutes that you could enjoy without having to get up and change or rewind. So they were a big improvement. Now this one was made for Sears and Roebuck, which was a catalog store. Now a catalog store was kind of like eBay is today. Sears and Roebuck put out a big thick book full of pictures of wondrous things that you could buy, and you could buy everything from Sears, from a car to a house. Everything in between, clothing, Victrolas. Now, the name Victrola, everything that played a record became known as Victrola, but it was actually the Victor Talking Machine Company, and that's what Eldridge Johnson founded. The Victor Talking Machine Company, and it had a picture of a dog listening to a horn, and it said his master's voice. So it was replicating, you know, the master that was gone, his voice, so the dog was listening to it. So people were buying these left and right. Now the Sears models were cheaper than the Victrolas. Now this one belonged to my wife's grandmother, and she bought this in 1916 with the first paycheck that she ever had. So she really loved music. Now it was the same thing as the portable. You had the clockwork mechanism in here, and you had to wind it up. And this is what's pretty cool about this thing. The volume control is here. You opened and closed your doors to affect the volume. You had spaces for your records down here to store them. And every home in America wanted one of these. I mean, they were really, really, really popular. They had some drawbacks. The needles on them, which is what that became known as, you probably can't see that, it's just a little bitty fine thing. You were supposed to change needles every time you changed records. So if you were really fast and you wanted to hear a record a lot, you could probably listen to a record for 4 minutes, probably change it over if you were fast enough in about 1.5 minutes, and then listen to another one. So you had this wide gap in between, where now it's just instantaneous, you know, with electronics and stuff. Now, these things, like I say, they became part of the family. Nobody hardly ever threw one away. Even after they got outdated, people kept them. And my family had one that they got after World War II. And my aunt still has it, so they were very cherished. You know, the memory of the thing is very cherished. 1924, they started having problems. This newfangled thing called a radio came in. So sales of the Victrolas went way down because radio, you turned a switch, there was music continuously, guy talking in between, giving you news, weather, whatever, in between the songs. So it was counted as far superior than these. So they kind of got left behind. But in 1925, the Victor Talking Machine Company came up with a way to use electric components. So you had your speaker and everything was electrified. So it had a much better sound than the old Victrolas. The Victrolas tend to sound a little tinny, and I'm going to play it for you in just a minute. Fortunately, after they changed over to the electric machines, the records would still fit. So they used the same records over and over. Now these records were called 78s, which means it was 78 revolutions per minute, 78 RPM. Now later on, you got 45s, 45 RPM, and then they had the Super 33 long playing LP, and they were, like I say, 33 and a half or 33 and a third, I think, revolutions per minute. So they all, the speed consistency on these was not near as good as the electronic ones. Your speed on this thing, keep in mind when I play it that this thing's over 100 years old. So the speed is going to fluctuate some on the tempo. Now your first step, I've already changed the needle. So the first step is to crank it up pretty good. That should do it. And we want to be real loud. Now the neighbors call the police and stuff, so we'll open up the doors. And then you flip your starter. And then you've got your needle here. We're going to put on here. We're going to listen to Wreck of the 97 by Git Tanner and the Skillet Lickers. And I think this record was recorded in 1926. They're one of my favorite fiddle bands. And so we'll listen to that. Just to show you your volume control, you're going to shut these doors. Not a whole lot of difference. It's that sound right there is really familiar to a whole generation, the staticky. Now, if I wanted to play another record, I would have to change that needle out and probably crank it up again, put my record on, so it was very time consuming, but for its day, it was very revolutionary. All of a sudden you had a way to hear your favorite song over and over. You were exposed to new music. And like I say, it's a whole lot like, well, it was the YouTube of its day, let's just put it that way. If you have an interest in finding out more about a Victrola or a Victor talking machine or an Edison gramophone player or any of the recording techniques that I've mentioned, there's loads and loads of information out there. It's a wonderful thing to check it out. Check it out for yourself. So, we've gotten spoiled by technology, but if you hear something like that, you'll appreciate what you've got a lot more than you do now.